And we are resuming debate with the honourable member from Dufferin-Caledon.
It's always a pleasure to speak here on behalf of the great residents of Dufferin-Caledon. Madam Speaker, I'm going to focus my remarks today on two of the recommendations in this report, and it's incredibly timely that we are having this concurrent debate with respect to this report from the committee. I want to start with recommendation number 12, and that is that the Government of Canada not grant a sanctions waiver to Siemens Energy Canada Limited for Nord Stream 1 pipeline turbines as long as sanctions remain in effect. Now, why is that significant, Madam Speaker? I'm going to go into that. So first of all, they granted that waiver in contravention of what the committee recommended, which included Liberal members of that committee. Now, why is that relevant? Because that went to a pipeline that aided Vladimir Putin. It aided his ability to export oil. How does he fund his illegal war in Ukraine? With the energy exports and the money they get from energy exports. So as we have been debating the free trade agreement between Canada and Ukraine, Conservatives took a principled position to vote against that free trade agreement, not only for what's in there, as the Liberals tried to export the misery of the carbon tax. I know trade agreements are about imports and exports, but what we shouldn't export is the misery of a carbon tax on Ukrainians in the middle of a war. That's one export I bet you they do not want. But why is that so relevant, Madam Speaker? It's relevant because of this. We took a principled position to vote against it because of that and because of many other aspects of this trade deal. It's a bad deal. We voted against it. We are Her Majesty's loyal opposition. Opposition is an act of loyalty. So when we vote against a piece of legislation in our capacity as the official opposition, we are doing it as an act of loyalty. And to have Liberal members accuse us of aiding Vladimir Putin as a result of that is beneath contempt. It is despicable. And when you consider that a committee that had 6 Liberal members, they put a recommendation forward not to grant a waiver to give a turbine for a Russian pipeline that would pump Russian oil, and they went and did it, and they have the audacity to stand here in this chamber and say we are aiding Vladimir Putin, the ones who invited a Nazi into this chamber when the president of the Ukraine was here. They say we are aiding Vladimir Putin. Madam Speaker, it is unconscionable for them to go there. They granted the waiver for that permit. What did that permit do? It enables Vladimir Putin to pump more oil. What does that do? It puts more money into the Russian war machine. Yes. And they say our act of loyalty as the opposition is aiding Vladimir Putin. This is disgraceful, even by the standards of the disgraceful conduct of the Liberal Party routinely, all across this country and in particular in this chamber. Now I want to turn to the second recommendation, which is that the Government of Canada continue to provide significant military, financial, and humanitarian assistance to Ukraine so long as Ukraine must defend itself from Russian aggression. Okay, so that's what their committee recommends. 6 Liberal members, they should do that. So what does that mean, Madam Speaker? Yesterday, at the International Trade Committee, which is studying this free trade agreement, I put forward a motion to expand the scope of what could be included in the review of this legislation. I did that because we wanted to include increased munitions exports to Ukraine. Real help. We wanted to include Canadian industry helping Ukraine increase its domestic capacity for munitions manufacturing. Now, why is that relevant? Because right now, Canada only sends to Ukraine 3,000 rounds of munitions per month. Now, does that sound great? Maybe, but guess what? Ukraine goes through 3,000 rounds of munitions in one morning, every morning. And the ratio of soldiers being able to survive a war with the ratio of the number of munitions that can be used is directly correlated. So by not actually doing what they should do, which is increase munitions production and help Ukraine increase more munitions, it costs Ukrainian soldiers lives and it aids Vladimir Putin in his vicious, illegal war in Ukraine. Now let's go back. So they're actually doing things that are harmful to Ukraine. They're exporting a turbine that is used to increase Russian revenue from oil and gas. Now, I don't know what the definition of helping Vladimir Putin is, but if I wrote the dictionary, let me tell you, that would be in there, Madam Speaker. Now, then on munitions. Guess how the Liberals voted on my motion at the committee to expand the scope of the review to include munitions? Let's guess. The member from Richmond Centre. The Liberal member from Richmond Centre, no. The Liberal member from Brampton East, no. The Liberal member from Brampton South, no. The Liberal member from Ottawa Vanier, no. The Liberal member from Nepean, no. And they have the audacity to stand here and say, us voting against them trying to export their most disastrous policy in Canada, the policy of deep misery, the policy of putting 2 million Canadians going to a food bank, the policy of 7 million Canadians eating less healthy food.
One moment, please. I just want to remind members, if they want to have conversations, to please take them out. There is a debate going on in here, and there is somebody who has the floor. The Armour for Dufferin Caledon.
Madam Speaker, I can take the heckling, let me tell you. When they're heckling, it's because they're losing and they don't like what I'm saying. So, they vote against the expanding the scope of this trade agreement to include munitions, increasing munitions production, increasing Ukrainian capacity to build their own munitions. Think about that for a second. All they had to do was expand the scope of what the committee could do. It's a simple vote, and yet all those Liberals voted absolutely not. It's disgraceful. And then for them to say, we are the ones who aren't supporting Ukraine, that would be real support for Ukraine, Madam Speaker. That is real support. What is not support is a carbon tax or carbon pricing. And it's never been in a Canadian free trade deal ever. It's the first time. So if it's the first time you put something into a trade agreement, you can put new things in, can't you? Because they put a carbon tax in for the first time, so new things can go in, right? So where is the section on energy security? Where's the section on LNG exports? Where's the section on seed bank cooperation for farmers? Where's the section on grain storage? Where's that, Madam Speaker? It's not there. Why? Because the Prime Minister is ideologically obsessed with a carbon tax and he wants to spread the misery all around the world. Now, Madam Speaker, I am going to make the following motion, that the motion be amended by deleting all the words after that and substituting the following. The 10th report of the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development, presented on Wednesday, June 14, 2023, be not now concurred in, but that it be recommitted to the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development with instruction that it amend the same to recommend expanding the scope either at committee or report stage of Bill C-57, an act to implement the 2023 Free Trade Agreement between Canada and Ukraine in keeping with recommendation 14 of the report in order to support expanded munitions production in Canada and increasing munition exports to Ukraine and support the development of weapons and munitions manufacturing capabilities in Ukraine by Canadian industry. Madam Speaker, it's time for them to put their money where their mouth is. The rubber's hit the road. Are they going to support this motion? Yes or no?